Ulonga tabati yada to ye ko madaifa. Ino to ye ko je love baby pa. Oba tala, oba takutakun. Zongo eshu, ogun oya osun. Kini ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o, ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Bami. And today, tribe, we back with another banger, man, another hot one with the God Khepra, Baba Khepra Patah in the building. So we're gonna chop it up, man, and get into this this thing about these water kingdoms, and we're gonna make it do what it do. With Baba Patah, man, as we always do. I think this is about at least the third or fourth time, man, I had Baba in here burning this thing down. So I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out real quick to the tribe. Shout out to the tribe, all the new subscribers. I think y'all done pushed us past like 18.5 or something like that, man. So we almost at our, almost at a 20K milestone. So looking forward to that. Shout out to those who helped us get to that 1 milli. I still ain't finished my milli tribute that I'm working on, man, to give thanks to all the, not only the tribe and the audience members, but all the guests who have been here from day one, who helped, this whole entire thing that we call the African Spirituality Experience, man. So I want to give a shout out to every single former guest from the first one, yeah, all the way until Baba Patah right now, as well as all the tribe members from the first subscriber to the channel, to everybody who's, wherever the last one is right now, to the Patreon community. We just had a dope, very, very powerful private community call on the Patreon. Shout out to everybody in the tribe that was on that private call, man. Very, very powerful call. And what I love the most about it is we have elders who are in the in the Patreon community, bro. And I actually chopped it up with like maybe 2 or 3 of them this weekend. And that within itself, before we even get into it, I really want to take the time and like take a moment to really honor the ancestors and the elders, because there's a lot of us who are dealing with a lot of transition right now. A lot of people are losing people at an alarming rate, who are transitioning and crossing over. We're seeing it in the entertainment industry, we're seeing it in the news and all that stuff, but also people, regular people like you and I, family members that are transitioning. It's never easy, it's always something that's very tough and challenging to deal with, but we always gonna fight through and make it through and keep on pushing. And we're going to do it by holding each other down, man. So shout out to the private community who came through tonight, because it was powerful, the experience, to work with elders who, are listening to the channel and who are tapped in, and, just like the feedback, man. Like, I'm really, really, truly, truly grateful, for all the tribe, but especially the elders, man, because, we can't have a successful village without having the guidance and the wisdom, of the understanding, overstanding, understanding, understanding of the elders. So shout out to the elders who've been holding us down, with the tribe, the tribe mamas and papas and iyas and babas, man. We salute y'all. We appreciate all y'all. And so with that, Baba Patah, I don't want to be too long with it, but I definitely want to show my love and support and gratitude to all those who help us do what we do and be what we be, man. Peace and blessings to you, Baba. How you doing?
All right. Good, brother. I've just been metamarinating. I was going to introduce that concept to what it's like to metamarinate sometime tonight.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't mind, I just wanted to pay homage to the ancestral water spirits really quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yours, Baba.
So.
Floor is yours.
Yibache, Oloku, Yibache, Yemoja, Omiho. Before the sky, there was water. Before the word, there was vibration. And in the belly of vibration, Olokun stirred. Here we return not to the past, but to the timeless ocean. Where the Orisha do not sleep and the Agun do not forget. Let our DNA awaken and activate, resonate with the tide. And let our spirit ripple with the voice of the waves. Let our Merkaba be baptized in the deep blue waters of rebirth. Greetings, my sisters and brothers. This is your brother, Khepra Patah, aka Ancient Wisdom Keeper, coming right at you again. And this time, tonight, we're going to be metamarinating, family. We're going to be metamarinating. You know what I'm saying? So.
We're going to make it do what it do, babe. We're going to make it do what it do.
Make it do what it do. That's right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, man. It's been a little while, try. So listen, my apologies, y'all, because we wasn't burning it up like we normally do with the live streams and the episodes. But trust me, I got episodes, on deck, and they're in the chamber ready to be loaded and exploded. So I'm working on that. But then the lives, we're gonna definitely I think we're gonna pick it up again next week, but it's just a lot of stuff off air that work that we have to
Mhm.
do as well. So we definitely got to hold it down, family wise and immediate, community wise. We got to take care of the tribe, man. But that's what we're doing. But at the same time, we're gonna do what we do on the channel as well. So with that, family. Bye. Every time we do it, man, we do it big, man. You got these Kabiesi boys up in the building. You got these, these owls and all that good stuff. It's a whole lot of ancient wisdom being kept up in these
That's
streets.
right.
When Baba come through, man. So me, I like to get it cracking, man. I don't even want to. I already had that long introduction, but I really love to show love to those who show love to us, man. So I got to make sure I do that and stay, continue to do that. But with that, Baba, this meta marinating, I rocks with it. I don't know a whole lot about it just yet, but I like the swag. I like that. So how did that come about, and what exactly is meta marinating?
One time I was talking to a friend of mine, and back for a while we would say, "I'm chilling." I'll say, "I'm just been marinating," letting it marinate. And then one time I was thinking, well, I just got done meditating and marinating. I said, marinating.
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm gonna come up with a book called Meta Marinating 101. What do you think? You think that's good enough for
Look,
Meta
and
Marinating?
listen, and for
For the
all the
beginner.
authors or writers that's on the call, look, make sure you do something right now. Matter of fact, I might need to go off, take you off screen so you can send yourself. I think they call it a poor man's copyright or something like that. But like email yourself like the name and the title of it. You know what I'm saying? And then buy the website at least immediately, so nobody will try to steal your ashay. But hey,
Facts.
but now I like it though, for real. Except just when you said it, I'm like, yo, I like that, bro. Like, what does that mean? But it really is dope. It's dope, and it's funny because the private call we was talking about Ori. So when you talk about meta marinating, but you said you came out of a marinating type of meditation, like, so where does the meta meet the marinate? Because
I
meta
love
means
it.
so, look, I like to play ball with the question.
Right,
I'm throwing
right.
no looks, boy. I'm Magic Johnson,
Fact,
but hey,
right.
throwing the alley off the glass. Let's get it,
Just
man.
shoot it, different angles. You know what I'm saying? Slam dunk
Yes,
that bad
sir.
boy.
Yeah.
For real. And well, here's the thing. If you look in Ifa, in Odu Ejiobe, they refer to the Ori as an ocean. They talk about the blacksmith of the ocean that is called Ori. And we know in the Kemetic tradition, there's Ptah, who was the blacksmith that lived around the time of the primordial ocean, right? So let's take it to metamarinating real quick. Metamarinating is tapping into the oceanic field via aquatic resonance. So metamarinating invokes or evokes a process of spiritual and energetic immersion into the oceanic field, which is a vast multidimensional intelligence encoded in aquatic resonance. And here we can explore its mechanics where we synergize principles, you might could say, from underwater acoustics, resonance physics, spiritual cosmology, all you name it. Now we see that the science of metamarinating has to do with water and is utilized in a certain way of working with the process of connecting with the energies of the flow of water. Now, how is that so? Well, we're actually underwater. We have never, ever, ever got out of the water. And I'm going to explain that soon. Okay? So I got to build it up, though. You see what I mean? Now, in ancient times, ancient traditions, the first level of initiation involved is baptism. We see this in ancient Kemet, when pictograms on the walls of certain temples, the initiate is being showered with unks, representing the waters of life. There are also the sacred rivers, like the Cometians. There's the Nile Valley, the Nile River called Hapi. And side note, Hapi is actually shown as being male and female, androgynous. Now, there's a side note. Some believe that the Great Pyramid itself was a water purification device, right? There's a book somewhere called The Hidden Waters of Amen, I had that book years ago. I think somebody may have taken it. But anyway, it talks of there's a brother who actually wrote the book, and I had it years ago, and it's talking about how the pyramid was utilized to purify water. And then there's also Christopher Dunn's work where he talks about the Great Pyramid being a power generator, right? So it's called the Giza power plant. So there's all these elements of ancient technology, right? Dealing with the purification of water, working with water, connecting with water. Now, Happy was not only the deity that associated with the Nile, there was also Aset, or Isis, if you may, also associated with the flooding of the Nile. There is also the Gihon River, mentioned in the Bible, that's associated with the Blue Nile. And there's another Gihon River in Jerusalem, where the kings basically have this water sprinkled on their behalf to activate their royalty. So that's a special river. Now, Happy, also depicted as being androgynous, having one breast of a woman to the Christian, so that shows that Happy has a nurturing aspect. The Christians considered the Jordan to be sacred. And then you have the Ganges in northern India. It's the sacred river where, well, ganja grows. Now, the Mississippi is a sacred river that was honored by the Ojibwe, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Dakota. And the word Mississippi is Ojibwe, meaning father of the waters. The Mississippi is similar to the Nile. It even has pyramids, right? So it's got pyramids and a pyramid structure called the Memphis Pyramid. That's on the bank of the Mississippi River, right there in Memphis, Tennessee.
I'm so listen. Please accept my apologies. I picked my spots like double dutching, man. But you said a lot, and you said a whole lot. And I know you got a lot more to say. But when you said Mississippi and then you said pyramids, like we spoke about a conversation that we hopefully we have time we can get into it tonight about like the connection because of the some people with the mindset of wanting to divide or separate Africans on the continent versus melanated folks on the continent of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a separate set of entities. So, maybe we can get into that, maybe we don't, but we know we got something coming for that. But when you say those pyramids off you said off or in the Mississippi River, which one was it?
Actually on the bank.
The bank of the Mississippi River?
Yeah,
Can you kind of tap into that a little bit more?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm getting.
So yeah. You got the Mississippi, the sacred river, and it's honored to also be a sacred river, kind of like the Nile Valley River or the Nile River. Mississippi is Ojibwe, meaning the father of the rivers. Now, the Mississippi River is actually similar to the Nile River, and it has a pyramid structure. That pyramid structure is called the Memphis Pyramid. I'm going to repeat, that's on the bank of the Mississippi River. And guess what? It flows right into Memphis, Tennessee. Now, I want to mention something here because if you are into Kemetic research, you discover that there's always this concept of Smai Tawi, which is the unification of two. And the thing about it is that I spoke to native elders years ago who said that Africans had built boats and had come over by boat thousands of years ago, and that they had already known about this place, about America. And also there's a book called The Land of Osiris, where Stephen Miller, he got his knowledge from an ancient Egyptian or Cometian wisdom keeper who basically told him that there is a Mayan temple right there in Egypt, right? And he's got pictures of the designs on the ceiling of this temple. And it doesn't look like the rest of the designs that you find in the other temples. And so you had a Mayan elder observe those pictures on the ceiling of that particular temple, and he says, oh, wow, these are Mayan. Well, here's the thing. The ancestors were able to build boats. And for some strange reason, they would act like the ancestors could not build boats. That does not mean that there was not a transatlantic slave trade. That happened, folks. I mean, there's documentation, there's people in Africa, there's slave castles and everything else. So yes, that happened. But I've advanced so much research and everything else. There's definitely merit to it about them coming before Columbus. And of course, if we are the oldest in African, is the oldest, Afrika, meaning the flesh and spirit of Ra, is the oldest. I'm talking about the melanated person that comes from, the oldest continent on the planet. Then, of course, we traveled. We were everywhere. You see, two things can be right at once. There doesn't always have to be either or. That's the issue. Because right now, you got people who are trying to divide us up more than ever. They love to see us argue. They love to see us fight. And they're vested in that. They're invested in that. And that's somewhat one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the Black Atlantis, because I'm seeing where people are basically going into that, but they're erasing the rest of the history that lead up to that, or they're misunderstanding. And sometimes they're kind of like not really putting it into perspective. You see what I mean? So of course, if you hear something for the first time and you may not be used to researching, it sounds deep. Like, wow, hold up. You mean to tell me that there was an Atlantis and our people were part of it? We lived on it and everything else. And Atlanta being Atlantis, transatlantic slave trade, we're going to get into that. I'm going to touch upon all that. But like I said, we got to build up to it. You see what I mean? Because the thing about it is that when you connect with the planet and you discover that the universe is a hologram and the planet that you live on is also part of the hologram, you remember, like I said before, that every part contains the whole. The word hologram breaks down into two Greek words, holos and gramma. Gramma. Holos meaning whole, gram message. So when you understand the whole hologram, you understand the whole message. Ashe?
I
So,
say, oh. But hold on.
so
Message. Look, all I can see is Tommy Davidson in In Living Color, that little skit they used to do when he was the cook, and they were like, whatever somebody would come in and talk some shit, and then they ring the bell, like, message. Yes, sir. Yes,
uh-huh.
sir. I ain't mean to interrupt, but that's all I could see was the message.
For sure, for sure. So when we look at this, we can look at some of the stories. I mean, some of the Native American words like the white buffalo, right? There's a word for the white buffalo was Tatanqueray. That sounds very Kemetic, okay? And I remember years ago, I was at a workshop, and I want to say it was either Malidoma, Patrice Someo was another elder. They was talking about how a group of Africans had come here to the continent and spoke with the indigenous and discovered that they could understand each other, even though they didn't speak the same dialect. This is important because it also suggests that we are more related than we are different, number one. And number two, there's a spiritual connection that we have to tap into as well. You see? So, yes, um, we're talking about that pyramid structure or pyramid like structures that are found not only around the river of Mississippi and going into Memphis, Tennessee, but let's look at this a little bit. In Kemet, there was a city called Memphis, originally called Menefer, meaning established in beauty and harmony. You see. Now, just a side note, some believe that Tennessee is of Cherokee origin. And what's interesting is that Cherokee have a story of creation where they say that the world started out as a watery mass. And guess what? A water beetle started with the process of creation. Sounds familiar? For those who are into the Kemetic tradition, you'll understand that it was the beetle that started out with creation.
I hate to do this, but I don't know. I think we did get into this on our very first call, but my very first African name was Khepra. It was Khepra Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
So it was dope because when I very first started speaking, like public speaking and training and Toastmasters, I remember sharing about the story of the dung beetle, and
Mm-hmm.
how the dung beetle, excuse me, and I didn't even go into the Kemetic aspects. I just shared it because the dung beetle and the process of the dung beetle coming into is the process of transformation. So most of us know it through the butterfly, scenario and the butterfly steps to transformation. But the dung beetle is if I'm not mistaken, Baba, I know you know, but I'm just saying for for the sake of the tribe who may not. If I'm not mistaken, the dung beetle is the beetle that when the mother is ready to lay eggs, she would lay her eggs, but then she would then encapsulate her eggs within a ball of dung. And she would make sure that she rolled it up to make sure that that ball of dung was almost, to me, would be metaphorically or very or directly a symbolism or like the process or makeup of an egg, because she pretty much put her eggs inside of, like, you know what I'm saying, the dung, and then rolled it up to make it like an actual protection layer for the egg, like the shell is for the yolk of a regular egg, right? And then in order for the beetles, when they're born, or when they hatch, in order for them to get out, they have to what? Then unburrow themselves from the ball of dung to be able to come into the world.
Exactly. Because they'll feed on it. That's also their food. So they'll come, they'll push themselves up, and they will emerge from the ground. Similar to the lotus that comes from out of the mud and opens up to receive the light of Ra. Hence, they call the lotus lily, they call that Sushini, where the Hebrew word Susan comes from, by the way. So if you know anybody named Susan, it derives from that Kemetic name Sushini or Sishin, meaning lotus. So, or lotus lily. So just a little side note. I know a lot of Susans out there. A lot of people have no idea that they have ancient Kemetic names. You know, like Jen Nefer. Even that, even though that it may appear a European name, Jen Nefer, right? Nefer. Nefer is a Kemetic word meaning beauty and harmony. Senior, senor, senorita, senerta. Senerta meaning elder sister, and senor meaning older brother. So yes, the Latin language, they took a lot from the Nile Valley, including netter or naturaleza, which you get the word netter, which comes into the word nature. And if you remove the vowels, it's got the same consonants. So just thought I'd share that. So again, we're talking about the beetle Khepra, who represents the beginning stages of creation, as you correctly mentioned about the dung beetle and emerging from the ground and coming from the primordial mud or the ocean and so on. And we see the evidence that the ancient ones traveled all around the world. Now, scientists say, okay, because a lot of their arguments is that there's a Pangea, and this is true, there was a Pangea. Science says that the Pangea existed 335 million years ago to 200 million years ago. That's quite a long time. But again, like brother Nkosi MP is mentioning about the Kushite dynasties that built the ships. You know, and I saw earlier he spoke about Quetzalcoatl, who circumnavigated the waters, and he had come from Africa, and he went all the way back. He circumnavigated, so he went all the way back from Africa, all the way to America, Mexico, and Mexico, where they talk about the Amaxim, aka the Olmec heads. When you turn the heads around, they got 7 braids. Well, those 7 braids, that look like brothers, the braids of brothers to me. You see what I mean? And that number 7 is also a number of significance. You see? Talking about spiritual perfection. So, ancient wisdom teachings in Africa, India, as well as the Mediterranean, it all speak about a golden age and a series of apocalyptic events. So, you know, things happen, but it happened in stages. You see what I mean? So let's talk a little bit about it. I'm going to go a little bit about back into something about how you can tap into this cosmic memory that they call the Akashic records. And we're going to talk about what I call the oceanic field. And it can be seen as, well, like your planetary memory bank. The fluid, the rhythm, the holographic aspects, and all of that. So it's being understood that this reality, like I said before, is a hologram. And to understand a hologram is understand the message. And remember that water can hold memory so that we live within the waters of none. You look at the Hebrew word for fish, it's none as well. What they call a woman that covers her body up, representing the hiding the mysteries. What is she called?
A
She's
nun.
called a nun. She's called a nun, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
so, you know, then you look on the zodiac. You see 180 degrees from Virgo is what? Pisces, the fish. Jesus' symbol is a fish. The Dogon symbol, the 8th ancestor, is also a fish, called Anagono, which is the Dogon tradition of Nomo, and the 8th ancestor offering his body to be eaten for the good of humanity, where his bones is thrown into the water and he's resurrected on the 3rd day. And guess what? The same is said by the Native Americans about the salmon. that the salmon sacrifice their bodies will allow you to eat their flesh and throw their bodies into the river, and later they're resurrected. It's interesting how you have all these similarities everywhere, but then you get this Westerner that comes in to tell you that you got to separate everything because that's set, dividing the body of Asar and scattering the pieces everywhere. And
Yep.
you got to get those pieces back. You got to
Mhm.
bring back the members so that you can remember.
Yeah.
You see? So, water contains ancestral, planetary, galactic memory. It's a
Yep.
conductor of frequencies through waveforms, salinity, temperature, and so on. All of this. You got the molecular structure of water. They call it H2O. It allows for energy to be stored and transmitted as vibrational data, making it a carrier of memory and intention. So when we pray into a bowl of water, which we do in a lot of our spiritual traditions, right? If you practice the Yoruba tradition, if you practice Vodun, you practice Akan, and you practice, you know, real indigenous tradition that's connected to the earth, you're going to notice, especially when it's us, we utilize water.
But can I jump real quick? I'm sorry, but because you're doing what you do, which that's why I love having you here, because you do what you do. But the private community call, it was about the Ori, right? So I was
Mhm.
sharing, different prayers and different ways of doing it, and the main way that I want to share was with a cola nut and water, and then what I'm saying, and then prayers and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, long story short, some people wasn't able to get their cola nut in time, or the different tools that we were going to go into it with, but
Mhm.
I promise you, I was like, but as long as you got the bowl of water, I got my cup of water here, but I had a
Check.
bowl. I'm like, that's really the most powerful source, because the water within itself, and then your ashe that you're programming into the water, that's the power. Like that's the power plant. Like if
Correct.
you got that and you know what to do and how to do it, that's the
Mhm.
power plant. Is that not?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
So that's
is.
why you talking about. Then that's why we said the name of this show is the Water Kingdoms, and then we're gonna talk about Black Atlantis because the power of the water.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out your way, Baba. Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Oh, nah, nah. I love that feedback because it also helps me, look at these things. Say, okay, let me go ahead and incorporate this into. Okay, yeah, yeah. Another good point. The Great Pyramid has a man-made lake underneath it, and so did the pyramid in Mexico. It also has a man-made lake underneath it as well. So they was utilizing that water for something. You see what I mean? So water does carry a charge. Again, they also called the water the Cyanunk, or should I say, the Askat Nefer, which is the holy waters of purity and harmony. Askat Nefer. And you'll find that in Stephen Mailer's book called The Land of Osiris, where he tells you in either that one or another book called, he's got a second book, and I can't think of the name right now, but he says that people need to study water, okay? And water is one of the main elements that we utilize in our spiritual technology all the time. So when we make Omiero, right? What is the name for water? Omi.
Oh, me too.
Now, check this out, right? Omi. And check this out. Arabic word for mother is Om, right? They call a lizard, there's a certain species of lizard that they call an Om Solomon. I found out why you call it Om Solomon. What does that mean? They said that means the mother of Solomon. It's interesting that the mother of Solomon was identified with a lizard, but that's another can of worm. We'll talk about that on another day. The Om is also utilized. We're talking about water, and it's also, I like how somebody just brought up Yeshua. Yes, yes. It also deals with Om. There's two ways to chant Om. There's Om that deals with the triple goddess with the AUM, where you say Aum. And you're also utilizing that sound when you do the ancestral prayer to the Yoruba, when you say La Umba Waori, Aumba Waori, Awo soon, Awaoma, Lady Oma, Yawo, Moegun Kawe. You say La Umba, Aum. It contains the word Aum. Then you're looking at when you greet the mother, when you greet Yemoja or Yemaya, what do you say? Oh mio, oh mio. You see what I mean? Try that. Just sit and say, oh mio, and just see how it feels throughout your whole being. Just marinate on it, meditate on it, become one with the sacred sound. The resonance can be spiritually interpreted as gateways that open you up to receive messages as well as to transmit energy. So we got these portals that we summon when we utilize and tap into certain forms and sound vibrations, the consciousness that attunes you to what I call the oceanic field, which is all around us, which I also call Olokun. So when it comes to, yes, they talk about Yemaya being the surface and Olokun being the depth, but remember, as above, so below. You see what I mean? So all waters is connected to Olokun because all rivers lead back to the great ocean. And Ori is identified with the ocean. What is the ocean? There's ocean in the form of the liquid, and there's also the ocean of cosmic consciousness. And it's something that's talked about in the Bible where they call the heavenly waters Shamayim. They call the firmament Shamayim. Okay, so we're talking about the heavenly waters. So this is something that's universal that our understanding, that our ancestors understood. Another thing that Yeshua was called in the book of Revelations in your Helios Biblia, also known as the Solar Bible or the Solar Book, where Yeshua is called Amin or the Amen. He's also called Emmanuel. And in the Ethiopian Book of the Dead, he's called Amin El. Wait a minute, hold on. Amen. What is the meaning of Amen? Break down the Hebrew word for Amen, and it spells Aleph, Delat, Mem. Mem being the water element once again. Aleph being the air element, then there's Delat, and then there's Mem being the water element. Mem literally means water in the Hebrew language. So hence, when you tap into Mem, you're tapping into your memory. Your memory. You see what I mean? Then you look at Amun of the Kemetic tradition. Again, you see the water element. Amun has the double relief for the first hieroglyphics. Then you have the water wave making the sound. And then you have the Sinet board making the sound. So
Bye bye.
again, Amin.
Please excuse me. I'm sorry. Real quick, the song you were singing, like that's dope. And I'm gonna go back to the private call again, real quick. We talked about the ancestors; they were very present, and like you just shared a song that is an ancestral song. That's a real song. So shout out to Zion Trinity. There's a group that's they're a group that they're in Nisheshe, and they got an album called Zion Trinity. They're powerful. I just shared the link, but that Egungun song that you just sung. Tribe,
Mhm.
that's in the matter of fact, I'm gonna put it on the screen. This is the link. Check out Zion Trinity on YouTube and shout out to them because man, listen, their album is dope. And so you shared that. So I want to just give them a shout out and let the tribe get access to the information you talk about, but to hear the melodies and the songs that you talking about because we can hear that too. And then it's gonna resonate on a whole nother level. So I didn't want to interrupt, but I want to share that with the tribe. So this is the link to Zion Trinity. Shout out to Zion Trinity because they got a dope album that's all Ishe music. So with that, I'm gonna get out your way, Baba. I just want to share that with the tribe real quick, and I'm gonna get out your way. Go ahead, man. Go.
Please get Zion Trinity. You know why? Because the lead singer, Nana Sula, is my cousin. So by all means, get that.
Bruh, you got to listen. We got to get them in here, man. I love their album, bro. Like for real, for real. Shout out to 100. Shout out to Wunam too, because I was able to check out some of y'all show last night. So shout out to Wunam for even connecting us. But please, if that's something that we can make happen, man, listen, I would love to have them on here. I love their album.
Oh,
But I'm gonna get out
oh
you.
yeah, yes. By all means, by all means.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
so it's like yeah, everything just falls into place. See, all that's Ori. Ori automatically just guides you where you need to be.
Yes.
You see? So
Yeah.
I was mentioning about the element of water, finding and Amin. And you see? Amin. They identified that sound vibration, Om, with the great mother. You see? And we still see where that sound vibration exists in various forms, even among our Yoruba um, ancestors. Omio, you see? Om. And other sound vibrations like who, when you hold your Ori and say Ori who, who is also connected to Tahuti sound vibration. And when you get into Sufism, they say Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. So the who sound is also a form of primordial energy as well, connects you to the primordial. So you're gonna see that there's a way in which you meditate where you say Om Ahum. So kind of like these are primordial sounds. When you're feeling good, you say Om Ah Hmm. You see, so you can actually meditate with that, and that's utilized as a Buddhist mantra. But also, if you're studying Rana Men's works, where it connects to Oser, he utilized it where he says Ang Oser Hum, and he talks about how in one of, I believe there's Ra. He mentions, well, Ra definitely is a sound of the divine. And I spoke about this with Sister Nikki yesterday about the concept of Amun Ra, because remember, Amun is also connected to hidden, but is also the hidden waters of Amen or Amun. And you have Amun or Om and Ram, which is over the solar plexus energy. Om Ram, or Amun Ra. So this is where you're getting into metamarinating, because now you got the cosmic waters of you that's boiling. You're bringing it to a boil, and you're causing your serpentine life force energy to raise up or rise up. You might have heard Sister Wanam, but she's calling upon the ancestors. She's saying, rise up, ancestors, rise up. Same thing is, would you want to rise up and get the life force energy to rise up? So you're tapping the ground with your opwa as you're bringing in the vibrations that the ancestors are coming through. Sometimes people who are mediums, they'll feel the ancestors rise up to their feet and permeate their body before they get what they call the stage of being mounted and so on. So being connected to the earth, we're constantly being connected to the ancestors. And then when you go into the waters and you call upon the ancestors, you're able to call on your ancestors and call them out of the water.
God, that's powerful, bro. Listen, we had a medium on the call tonight, so shout out to Millie, because Millie she's like, her and Wuna, they got a similar, very powerful gift. Like everything you just said, I promise, bro. Like how divine this is. I don't know. Let me see if I can. There was a comment where somebody was saying like divine alignment. Matter of fact, it was Nkosi was on there, but there was a few other tribe members that's on the live now that was in the private call. But bro, this is so dope because they heard some of what Millie's gift is in regards to spirit and being a medium who can see. She's a seer like Wuna. So like both of them have a gift where they can literally get firsthand information from spirit and then transmute it and give it to us to like, bro, like I shared this with the tribe that who was in the private call, bro, but I've been working with her. I don't know how long it's been, but she's been my Reiki master, like my healer where I go to get a tune up and all that, right? So in the last session that we had, and shout out to G Lady because I gave her a shout out, I think on the 13th, the live that we did, my grandmother, because it was her birthday, but Millie on the last session that we had in regards to a Reiki tune-up, energy alignment session, right? She gave me a message from my grandmother. But not only did she give me the message, but she was like, does her name start with a G? And then she just said, is her name such and such? I was like, yo. I was like, bro, like, man, like, listen. And we just talked about this on the call right before we came on. But, bro, that's how powerful that everything you're saying, like, that's real. Like, I got receipts. Like, for real, in regards to how spirit, there's no limit to spirit and what spirit can do if you are able to access or tap into the right conduit or the right, I feel like, medium that can get you what, you know what I'm saying, is tapped in and connected and then get it over to you. Like that's dope, bro. That's go ahead. I'm sorry, I just want to share that because you my bad. I'm out.
Oh, no problem. And I appreciate the fact that you spoke about Reiki, because sometimes I sit in front of my Orishas and give them Reiki, and they love it. Your Orishas will love to take some Reiki because you're basically elevating and expanding your auric field. So that's your Ashe as well. You see what I mean? So you're tapping into the universal divine field, and you're seeing yourself as being a hollow bone because you're not trying to use your mind necessarily to steer it or control it. You just become the conductor of it and you allow it to work through you. That's how that works. Because we're constantly interfacing with a living responsive field, and our thoughts and emotions ripple through the field like waves. So rituals, prayers, and chants can imprint this field with the healing codes. As well as, like, remember, we're still like underwater too, because there's water vapors and water molecules all around us. Water vapor is the most abundant greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. It traps heat, it helps regulate temperature, it prevents extreme fluctuations between night and day. So without it, Earth would lose heat. It would lose it rapidly at night and overheat during the day, leading to a destabilized climate. So when you're working with water, you're understanding that water brings balance and coolness. So when you're sprinkling, you're saying, "Oh, me tutu ele, tutu ana tutu," tutu eshu and tutu egun, and you're basically bringing coolness to all these things because it was also believed that it was cool water that brings stability to creation. Because without the cool water, we'll live on a molten mass, so it'll be too hot to inhabit. So you bring the coolness to the heat. So they're saying when your RE gets hot, you want to bring some cool water and cool it off and sprinkle it. Sprinkle that bad boy. When it starts to get hot and you feel like it's getting heated or you feel like you're getting hot, you're getting irritated, then you put some cool water in your RE on your head. You see? Um, the atmosphere itself, it contains these water molecules in which you wouldn't even make a sound or be able to make a sound without these water molecules because sound is not heard in just a vacuum. So they talk about Ra. Well, when you look at the hieroglyphics of Ra, what you're looking at is you're looking at the fish's mouth, the arm, right? And then there's a sun disk. That is not a human mouth. That is the mouth of a fish because it deals with speaking things into existence through the primordial waters of creation. You see what I mean? So we're looking at how this works out scientifically and just about everything we do spiritually. It does have its reflection somewhere in science a lot of times. Because remember, everything on this physical plane is a slowed down version of something that comes from the invisible realm. So before it came into physical form, it came about through the subtle construction of it before it came and arrived in physical form where we can hold it and touch it. And one of the reasons why you want to do physical things when you do the prayers that you do, like whether it's doing a libation or you're setting some fruit in front of your altar, or you're constructing an altar, or you're just doing your daily chores. Well, that creates an alchemical process of change because your intentions are being brought together and put in stone, you might could say. If you have a thought, if you write your thoughts down, then you're making it easier to manifest because you're bringing it from Arun to Aye, from heaven to earth. Ashe? So in short, we talked about the Kemetic word Amun or Mem, Memphis, establishing beauty, or established in memory. The pyramids, the pyramids over there close to the Mississippi River going into Memphis. Because you see, Menafra and Memphis containing the word Mem is dealing with restoring your memory and bringing back the scattered pieces back together. Menafra deals with that which is established in harmony and beauty. And remember, the symbol of the Nefer, which is a lungs and trachea, is also the symbol of the lute, symbolizing the human voice has the ability to call upon creation and bring things into manifestation. Because you, like Kanye West said, are a heaven sent instrument. You see, so you being a heaven sent instrument, you have the ability to call on things. That's why you're given the ability to channel Reiki and Orin and so on, or Reiki, Oriki, representing the elevation of the Ori. You're raising the vibration of yourself when you do praise poetry. So when you look around you and you're saying, I give thanks and praise to the floor, give thanks and praise to the window, give thanks and praise to the ceiling, you recognize that the whole universe around you is alive. They talk about the skillet making elbow to the pot and so on, right? It's like the African way of looking at things is that all things is alive and intelligent, and everything around you is a symbol of Olodumare in the first place. It's just when we start to like tap into the way the Western mind thinks that it can only separate things, that it doesn't integrate them. But it's useful though, because you do need to have discernment. It's just that they did not teach us how to discern. So when we do discern, we may take things apart and put them back in the wrong place because of the education system. But it's not really working like an education system, because if it was really education, which comes from the word educare, it'll be bringing the best from within you to the surface. That's what educare means. So we call this wisdom. Wisdom represents water, it's the flow of intelligence. Water, wisdom, Sophia, who represents the soul, right? And is also symbolic of Isis. And also, when you look on the tarot deck, you get they show the woman who is the high priestess that once again represents Isis. She's holding what is called the Torah. And then to spell it backwards, it contains the word rota, but it also hides the word tarot because the tarot is the book without bindings. You see, because everything around you is actually the book without bindings. You just got to pay attention to them. And when they're miniaturized in the form of an oracle or a card deck, right? You're studying the symbols of what the universe is actually saying around you, but you're putting it in front of you so you can put it in perspective and you can kind of zero in on it as laser focus. And that's what divination is.
Bye. Listen, take a breath. Take a breath. Take a breath because listen. First, I want to try to be able to catch up because I'm sitting here listening. And I'm like, I see all I'm seeing is like zeros and ones coming down in the binary. Like, look, not just the opine and like the divination tree, but I see the matrix like the zero.
Yep.
Listen, and my mind, the way my mind set up, boy, it be going. So I can't imagine what the tribe got going on. So with that, because you're dropping so much heat, I don't want to burn down the service and everything. But I want to give you a chance to catch your breath, but also so I can get them a chance to ask a couple questions because I got a few questions, actually several, but there's a lot that I feel like, well, there's several that I want to definitely get to because I feel like they're extremely relevant. So first, let me give brother Nkosi his question because his was the first one like 30 minutes ago. But he says, what does or who does the crocodile represent in regards to like animals and you know how the hieroglyphs and we got different elements that you know what I mean that you can identify in regards to like what the glyphs are speaking. Kind of like the Odus, you know, how each Odu has this numerical, you know, identification mark and all that good stuff. And then, but anywho, the question was, what or who does the crocodile represent in regards to the Nile Valley?
Sebek.
Hmm.
So basically, what Sebek did is would to be the guardian of the thresholds. Because at one time we would have like maybe Arabians and invaders that would come into the thresholds and try to sneak into Kemet, and the crocodiles would stop them. So Sebek became a symbol of that, which is the guardian. So sometimes you will see a depiction of a crocodile on top of an ark, and a crocodile was so sacred that the crocodile was often mummified as well. So Sebek, if you look at the word, it contains the word Seb or Sebi, which means to bound. So he had the role of being the guardian of the thresholds. It is also said that he assisted when Asar was murdered. He carried Asar on his back. And the crocodile was also, interestingly enough, identified with Oshun. Another thing about the crocodile, now since I'm thinking about it, another aspect of the crocodile is Amsu. Amsu is where you get the word Mesu, which becomes Amsu and Mashiach, because the Pharaoh, he was anointed with the fat of the crocodile. So Amsu and Mashiach, or Messiah, means one who is anointed with the fat of the crocodile.
Ooh.
That's what a Messiah is. Mesuya. That's the Messiah. Mesu, Amshu, who is also known as the father of his own mother.
Listen, so I'm gonna ask this other question because, and then I'm gonna get out of the way again. Cause I feel like you ain't always ready to just be sitting the shuttle down on the ground. We got to get it back back up into the cosmos. So shout out to the brother Armando Elliott says so in the Bible. In Bible study, when the man got eaten by the fish, he talking about that Piscean, everything you was saying. I'm gonna get out the way. Go ahead.
Same thing about Asar's penis being eaten by the Oxyranchus fish, which is the snotted fish. You know, so you could also say that that eating or being eaten by the fish was the coming into the age of Pisces. And if you notice, here's the thing: being swallowed by the fish, when it was coming out of the age of Pisces and going into the age of Aquarius, when Jesus was speaking into his disciples, he mentioned that you will see a man carrying a water jug and you will follow him into the house, because that was talking about the coming of the age of Aquarius, with a man who carries the water jug and he is the water bearer. So the Bible, aka the Helios Biblia, was also a wisdom book when it came to dealing with astronomy on the astrological and astronomical. That's why it's also called the Helios Biblius in the Sun Book or the Soul Book. That's why they got to have 12 disciples, right? They have 12 gates in the house of Jerusalem. They talk about the Meseroth and so on. They talk about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which represent earth, wind, fire, and water, which also represents the four evangelists. And those four evangelists is the lion, the bull, the man, and the eagle, representing Leo, Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius. That's what those represent. So those are four fixed signs of the zodiac that deals with where the Christ dies and eventually is resurrected. And each and every one of us, we got to carry and tap into our own internal cross. So when you're able to look into the stories and understand these are stories of wisdom teachings that go back all the way to ancient times, they were literally made into something that would trap your mind because they had you indirectly worshiping yourself this whole time, thinking that everything was historical when much of it was also symbolic. Because one of the things in which the Bible was meant to do was to initiate someone, and there's an aspect of it to deal with the ritual of the resurrected king and so on. So even the whole story about Moses being put in a put um put in a basket and sailed down the Nile, right? Well, Asar was also put in a coffer and sailed down the Nile. And then in the Yoruba land, there was a king who ended up being sailed down the river there, where he was washed up on the shore and became the king of that land. So it's kind of like a universal idea of a king making ritual and king making initiation. So what it is that you got to allow yourself to be that king or that queen by initiating yourself, by studying. That's why it's talking about study and show thyself approved. And they're talking about in the day of judgment, they're saying that there's going to be a time when you're going to ask that you study. Well, basically, study what? You're here to study and learn about the creation. You're here to learn about the creation, how to participate in it, and how to master the elements. The first element that you're exposed to in initiation is water. The next level, right, is fire. That's why they talk about your first baptism being by water and your second baptism being by fire. The first flood, the first way that the earth was purified was through water. The second way that the earth is purified is through fire. Same thing. Because as you're going to initiation, so is the planet.
That part. That part. Like that's listen, and that's something that I've shared, and not just myself, but many other guests have shared multiple times on the channel. Like Mother Earth, Onile, the planet, she's going through her menstrual cycle. You know,
Yes.
like she's cycling out the old and the bullshit and bringing
That's
forth
true.
the new and the you know what I'm saying, the rejuvenation, the cultivation, you know what I'm saying, the manifestation, the
Mhm.
crystallization, the activation of all things of a much higher level and frequency. And we seeing it like like
That's
in
shit.
all phases, bro. Like from the ant world, the insect kingdom, all the way to the
Mm-hmm.
cosmos. They talking about all these different things that's headed Earth. It been here.
Facts.
It been here in the Earth, around the Earth, on the Earth. Like it been nothing has changed. They gotta put a certain level of truth out because they know you
Mm-hmm.
can't stop what it is.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And that's it. It's like they know that part of the magic is that they got to tell you what's going to happen before they execute it. That's part of their magic. You see what I mean? But they also understand that their time is limited. They only have so much longer to do this, you see? Because it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius. Hey, I'm into music. What can I say? But the bottom line is that you're going from what they call I believe to I know. So you're going from the believing to the knowing. So that's been and left. Okay. So now you don't have to worry about just being and leaving. Now it's coming into the knowing. And when you know something, that means that you get an intimate connection with it. To know, like Adam knew his wife. You see? So when you know something, you have become intimate with the known.
So that's know thyself, right?
Yes, you have to have an
Okay.
intimate relationship with yourself. Hence, intimacy. Into me, I see.
Whoa. Two more times. Can we get that? Can you slow it down a little bit? And then can we get it like two more times? One at like a slower version, and then maybe one regular. Because but that was dope, bro. Like I don't think too many people gonna pick up like how the phonetics with that. But one more time, two more.
Intimacy. Into me, I see. Intimacy. Into me, I see. Know thyself. What the Prophet Muhammad said in Islam, know thyself and you know your Lord. Taqwa. Know thyself. You're a miniature universe. You're the microcosm within the macrocosm. So you are your own self university. You're a universe city. You're a city in the universe. You're the city of nine gates according to the Bhagavad Gita. Know thyself. Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to study self. That's why the Torah, that's why, the book, the Bible or the Biblios, it's got two testaments. One deals with the left side, the other deals with the right side of the brain. One deals with the discrimination aspect, the discriminatory aspect. Okay, we're going to separate and create a people, a unique people that's going to have a unique nation. And then you get the right side of the brain that deals with everything, right? Oh, everybody can reach salvation. See, the first mysteries deal with learning the laws. The second mysteries is dealing with the good news, which is immortality, which is the precious treasure that we each and every one of us have and can tap into. All we have to do is remember. That's the faith. Finding answers in the heart or finding answers in the head. Faith.
Man, listen, like you. Whew. Sheesh. Oh man, shout out to Armando because that emoji right there, that's exactly what Baba doing. But he burning this thing down, he burning it up. We gotta call Lil Wayne. Like I want to say it out like maybe circa 2000, 2001 fireman. I can't remember. We gotta call the fireman out this mother boy. Cause the boy, look for real though, man. Like for real, and it's dope because I was just thinking about Weezy the other day about Millie, that song of Millie. But what real quick questions. Two quick questions if you can. What does it mean if you see a crocodile in your dreams as a child? Is it, you think it's any symbolism or any type of like metaphysical correlation to that, Baba?
Again, and once again, the crocodile deals with the first entry level of initiation going beyond the thresholds. You see? So the crocodile deals with the guardian of the threshold. So if you see the crocodile and you go beyond the crocodile, that means that you're on your way. That means that you're at the door. If you have a dream of lions on the side of a door or dogs on the side of a door and you go to the door, that represents going to initiation. Ancient temples around the world have these symbols of, an open door, and you may see where there's lions, or you may see where there's dogs and so on, or jaguars in America's case. But yes, the crocodile, once again, being a sacred animal, you look at the word Sebek, and you also got Sebi, and you also got the Sebao. Now, the Sebao are the earth-bound ones. Those are the enemies of Asar, right? And when you look in the hieroglyphics, there's they show the symbol of someone who is in bondage with his hands tied behind his back. That's part of the determinatives. There's usually the letters and there's the determinatives that make up the hieroglyphic words. So when you look at Sebi, right, the word Sebi may be spelled like tau, leg, and maybe reed leaf. And behind that, you'll see a man on his knees. That's not the letter. That's a determinative, and it's showing that he's in bondage. So Sebek represent that which bounds those who are not ready to cross that threshold. If you've seen Sebek or if you've seen a crocodile, it can mean one or two things. Either you're ready for initiation or you're going through an inner initiation for the Kemetic aspect. Because again, the Messiah is the fat or the one who has been baptized or anointed with the fat of the crocodile. So that's what they call Christ and Christos, the anointed one, the Mashiach. That's where they get that from. Your Hebrew or your Hebrew words, Hebrew means when that crosses the river or when that crosses over. And what's interesting about it, you spell Habiru backwards and it spells Yoruba, or it sounds like Yoruba. But anyway, that's kind of one speculation that I've meditated on. The fact of the matter is that the concept of the Hebrew and everything else, and there's people who will talk about Hebrews. You got Netanyahu is fake. He cannot trace his blood back to Abraham, whether or not Abraham existed. And they know that they're fake, which is why it's literally illegal to get a blood test in Israel. But anyway, I digress. The real Hebrews are those who are initiates. So the idea of crossing over, even though they villainized Kemet in the Bible, because that represented an order that they wanted to leave and come into a new order. So all that represented was going from what they considered bondage at that time into the light in the land of milk and honey in that particular time. So all of these are symbolic. That was their coming forth by day. Okay, that's what that was.
Yeah, that's excuse me, that's deep. That's real deep, man. I'm gonna do like one or two more questions, and then we can go to the home stretch because I know the time is of the essence. But shout out to RSPV Visions 82nd Street. He said I call crows and they come. It's 3 of them at a time, and they be around me daily. They've been around me daily for like over a month. He said, what does that represent?
Connected to the mothers. Connected to Ajay.
Yep.
So so you continue to respect the crows. feed them, you get blessings that way.
Facts. Yeah, and fam, we gotta if you go to the, I'll put it in the chat, but we got a private community with the Patreon community, and we got free tiers too. But we definitely have a couple of the mothers that come through and do private calls. But I got one I'll be sharing. But anyway, that's a real thing, and I'll be sharing some videos in the private community in regards to like how to connect with them and how to give offerings to the mothers, because there are different ways that you can appease the mothers to like get those blessings of favor. As Baba is talking about, with that, I think there was like one other question that I wanted to get to. I can't find it now, Baba, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull back out and let you do what you do, and then I'm when I find that other question, I'll bring it back to the floor once we keep it popping. Okay.
I say, Olokun. Olokun is the owner of the ocean. All sunken civilizations are stored under the deep waters of Olokun's domain. Atlantis, island of Atlas. Atlantis is named after its ruler, Atlas. What does Atlas do? They show Atlas as a statue in the museum holding up the world, right? There's a bone right here in the neck under the skull that holds up your world, that holds up your Ori. So what if everybody looking for Atlantis is looking for a state of mind, a state of being? Okay? And what if the story of Atlantis was a metaphor about what happens when we get too far out of line with who we actually are? And not to say that there's not ancient civilizations that could reflect that, because at the same time, the Greeks were told by the Cometians, aka Egyptians, that we have been keeping records about civilizations long gone. You guys are new. In fact, they actually said that you Greeks are nothing but children, and there is not an old man among you. So we look at something very interesting, because it's dealing with saying that there was once a landmass close to Mauritania, and it actually had sunken, or they said that it may have been there. And there recently was a European man of European descent who talked about how Atlantis is actually in a place in the Sahara what's called the Eye of the Sahara. And what's interesting is that they also mentioned that in the Aquaman movie, where before they had to go to Atlantis, they had to go through Africa. You see what I mean? So you have this place called Mauritania. Mauritania has deep historical and linguistic roots that trace back to ancient civilizations. Like, so the Latin Mauritania, the name originates from a Roman province of Mauritania covered in present-day parts of Morocco. It's also derived from Moroi, meaning the country of the Maori, a term used by Greeks and Romans to describe the Berber peoples of North Africa, but eventually it became Maori or Moor. The term Maori and later Moor refers to dark-skinned Berber populations that come from the Greek Maros, meaning dark or black, but also the black people that eventually found their way in there. They all got tied together. They were called the Blackamoors or the Moors, and the Moors were also supposed to have been navigators of what? The waters. So when we look at the modern depiction of Mauritania, it's also suggesting that they had went in with knowledge, right? That they had got out of North Africa, by the Kemet and everything else. They had surgical tools and everything else. All this knowledge, even with music. And they created huge swimming pools in what was called Portugal and Spain, crossing that area where Plato talked about Atlantis being beyond the Straits of Gibraltar, which would actually, when they fit the description and the direction he made, was in that area where you cross over into Spain above the African continent. So the Moors, for instance, they were the navigators of water. Again, you have people that deals with water. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this because, there's some things that I like about them, some things that I don't necessarily like about them. But the fact of the matter is that there was an African presence over there in Spain and Portugal, and they came with sacred knowledge in which came out of the northernmost parts of Africa, because our ancestors had a connection, not just in West Africa. Remember, they were trading. And I just got to ask people this. What makes you think that a people is going to stay in one place for 5,000 years and never connect with nobody? And all of a sudden, a bunch of barbarians can establish a trade route and find people that's been there for thousands of years that got an advanced civilization. The European people had a pretty advanced civilization if they had the lost wax method, right? They were forging iron and forging tools. What makes you think they didn't have boats? But
Ogunye.
you see, but the thing about it is that the way they tell history is that it makes you think that nobody had anything in the first place. So you had that connection with the brothers that was going up into North Africa and then going into Spain and Portugal and coming back down and also settling in Mali. And there was Timbuktu, there was Mali. So you have the Muslims over there among the Yoruba people called the Mali or called Imali, not to be confused with Imole. They were the Imali. And they call Muslims Imali because they have a connection with Mali. So they had all of that knowledge that was circulating between these two cultures, including divination systems that are similar. So if you remember, we talked about the story of geomancy and the story of geomancy talking about connecting with these 16 figures in which Idris was tracing in the sand, and then the angel Jabril came and spoke to him and said, hey man, these 16 patterns, you can use these for divination. Didn't Arumala do the same thing?
Yes.
You see what I mean?
From Ogbe to Ofun, the 16 major Odu.
Yes, yes. You see? So it must be remembered. Even Europeans acknowledge that this binary system that came to be utilized in their computer system came out of North Africa. So what did Wande Abimbola say? He say that Ifa will mend all
In
the
this
world.
world. Yes,
It will
sir.
mend this world. You see? So what are we trying to get back together? The pieces of who? Osir. The pieces of Obatala, the pieces of the shattered calabash that's brought back together in Ofumeji. We used to have five. The fact of the matter is that when you were scattered and separated, my sisters and brothers, they made you lose your memory so that you will not be able to gather the pieces back up. So who gathers the pieces of Osar? Aset, who's identified with the flooding of the Nile and the memory. She is the memory. She has to gather up the pieces of Osiris, of Osar. Okay?
Baba, real quick. How does the 42 laws of Ma'at, does any of that play into like our sets, connection and her, her ties to, Asar and everything that is, saying the ancient Kemetic, experience? Like, how does the laws of Ma'at tie into everything that you're sharing about how those pieces got to get put back together? Because to me, I feel like there's got to be some sort of astrological, cosmic, or mathematical connection between everything that you just shared in regards to putting those pieces back together, and then Aset, or what they would say in the Greek one, it was Isis, and then what we're talking about now with Ma'at, but also real quick outside of Ma'at, also like how does all that tie into the whole creation story in regards to like the when we take it to the cosmic level in the Piscean and the Aquarian age? Does any of that connect in regards to what you're talking about? Putting things back together.
Definitely. Well, you see, the Earth also, our planet is also dealing with going back, like, because it's dealing with this 72-degree cycle that we're dealing with. Okay? So, how many conspirators got together to murder Assad? There was 72. These are all dealing with degrees, right? And if you, what's 5 times 72? It's 360, 360 degrees. So if you remember that we're dealing with the 72. The first book of the Bible was that they established in Alexandria was the Septuagint, with 72 plus 1 books, 73. But that plus 1 always deals with fluidity. That's why in Islam they're talking about you're going to have 72 virgins in the mansions of heaven, because they're talking about these 72 degrees. It's not, nobody's going to blow themselves up with dynamite and all of a sudden they get hooked up with 72 virgins that stay virgins for eternity. That's not what's going to happen. Okay? So I hate to disappoint someone who tries to blow themselves up with dynamite thinking that they're going to get these 72 chicks, but that's not what's going to happen. Okay? Um, Another thing too is that you're also, they say that Islam would be divided into 72 sects. There you go, that number 72 once again. Remember, 5 times 72 is 360 degrees. That's 360 deities in the Kaaba connecting with the lunar cycle. Because again, all of these Abrahamic religions were dealing with the astrological or the astronomical, you see? So the Hebrews, they deal with the 72 angels, the 72 demons. You see what I mean? 72, 72, 72. Okay, so the 42, we're looking in the Holy Bible, Helios Biblia, Jesus had 42 generations that led up to Jesus. In the Buddhist Tibetan Book of the Dead, they talk about the 42 Buddhas, just like there's the 42 judges. You see? So you have one part where they got the 22, the regions of the 20 of Upper Kemet, then with the 20, there's one with the 22 gnomes, and then there's another aspect with 20 gnomes and stuff. And you bring that together, you also get the 42. So a lot of that, if it's on earth, then it also means it's reflected in heaven. You know, so I haven't got my finger on how exactly 42 adds up exactly yet, but I do see the patterns of 42. So when I see 42, I know that that's something. You see it in both the Kemetic, or the Book of Coming Forth by Day from Night, and what they call the Book of the Dead in Kemet, and you got that in the Buddhist Book of the Dead called the Bardo Taro, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead with the 42 Buddhas, in which the spirit is connected to or faces as it is traversing what they call the Bardos. Because the whole idea is that the spirit is purified so that it can traverse and go into the realm of the ancestors instead of being stuck. So, or if you do reincarnate, you know, there's missions that you're supposed to complete when you come back. And the Kemetic tradition is believed that if you snatched off a part of the mummy, like if you cut off the hand or something, that person would not be able to reincarnate and do their mission.
That's deep. And real quick too, when you were dropping all them doggone jewels, I was thinking, because when you talk about numbers, like I say, my mind be going all over the place when I'm listening to you, you know, and everybody else will be dropping jewels. But like the 72, and then you said the 72, I'm thinking like, oh, like that's deep, because now I'm looking at, I always look at things phonetically too. Like I try to break things down from a numerical, from a astrological, from a spiritual, or, you know, even sometimes when, like the number 7, for example, like when you talk about that, especially when we talk about spirituality, I think about the 7 chakras, you know, the 7th heaven, you know, so many different elements and aspects of that, right? But the 72, as you was dropping all them jewels about the 72 pieces and all that, I then thought about the 7 plus 2, when you talk about numerology, would equal a 9. Well, 9 is divine. 9 is the end. It's the beginning. It's transformation. When we cross over from the Kemetic space and go into the E5 space, or Isheshe, we're talking about Ye Oya, who is also attributed to the divine 9 and transformation, and, you know what I'm saying, like the death to the old, the birth to the new. So with the 42 and the 42 laws of Ma'at, right? It might not be some sort of, like, I feel like, standalone stamp and concrete affiliation, but what I will say, when you talk about numerology and you put the 4 plus the 2, that's 6, right? Well, 4 plus 2 is 6. If you're looking at the 16 major Odu from those who have practiced or learned under the cowrie shell, you know, divination system, that would equate to the Odu of Obara Meiji. I was just sharing on the private community call about how that Odu of Obara Meiji, and E5 is going to be, I think, the 7, if I'm not mistaken, but that Odu of Obara Meiji is attributed to the pyramid builders. The pyramid builders are ones who create the foundation. They lay it all down, you know what I'm saying, from the bottom and raise it all up. So either way it goes, I'm just feeling like, just listening to you, I'm vibing with, like, just literally just listening, but my mind, like, breaking stuff down. I'm like, it's still some connections there. Because when you talk about Obara Meiji and you talk about that being a pyramid builder, Odu, what is the connection? Because if I'm not mistaken, it was you, I think I learned that there's a really strong connection between Shango and Heru. And Shango is attributed to the number 6.
Yes.
So,
Definitely.
okay, I'm going to get out the way. Go ahead, Baba. Whatever you get from that.
Got a lot, you know, a lot of times, and here's the thing. Where they say Shango is the Risha that lives in the sky, you know. I remember one of my elders, Baba Shango Dare explained to me some years ago about the connection of the rising fire, the Shango Loro, which represent that which is in the pot that rises up. You know, so we're looking at Shango once again being connected, or Shango being connected to the fires and the sacred serpentine fire as well. You see, so you had that connection, where they also had identified Shango with being connected with 12 avatars, where he also dies and he resurrects. And there's different 12, there are 12 aspects of Shango too. And there's also an aspect of Shango that deals with the lunar calendar too, where his daughter is Osu, also known as Osukwa. And that deals with that calendar, with the lunar calendar. So in that case, Shango is also connected to time.
Yes, sir. Get. Let's get it. Give it to him, Baba. Give it to him.
Yeah. So yes, so we have a whole lot of things that we want to look into as far as where civilization had taken this. There was somewhere I wanted to go with the Moors and Marine, Mary, and so
Mary
on.
time. Was it Mary time?
Yeah, I was going somewhere else with that too, but it'll probably come back to me. But one of the things is that the Moors, and the word Moor is also connected to the word Merut, meaning beloved, and also the connection with Mary. And the name Mary was also a name of the initiates. Now, Mary was dealing with the deep waters. Saint Jerome, suppose I translated Mary from Mariam, which I believe comes from Mary Amun, which means beloved of Amun. But when he translated it, he called her Stella, Stella Murray, Stella Maris. Originally, Stella Maris was from Stella Maris. So they say that it was corrupted. Originally, it meant a drop in the waters, or a drop in the ocean, or a drop in the water. So you have maritime. You also have the patroness of being Mary, being that she was the patroness of the ones who navigated the waters, who navigated the sea. The reason why this is important because we see that the mystery of Mary and the mystery of Aset is all connected to the mysteries of water. And it's the water, once again, that deals with the flow and the memory and the restoration and resurrection of the Osiris. Again, you got to bring things back together. So if the water is being polluted on the planet and people's drinking the water, it's messing up your memory. You're becoming more and more forgetful. So what we got to do is that we got to get this water purified. We got to make sure that we're purifying the water because you see, according to Native American Hopi mythology, they say that it was the black people who were supposed to be the keepers of the mysteries of water. They say this. So if we are the ones who are the keepers of the mysteries of water, right? And of course, yes, we want to identify with the sun. And I'm not saying that we don't have a connection with that too. But if we're the keepers of the mysteries of water, then maybe it's good for us to investigate why there's a lake under the pyramid and so on, and what they meant by the secret teachings of the ancient ones. It talks about the mermaids coming from out of the water and teaching humans. Like, for instance, you can find these stories in West Africa where it's named Tamami Wata, and it talks about how sometimes a person may get lost where they may go by the water, and Mami Wata may choose someone and she will teach this person, but this person will disappear for a while and come back with all this knowledge. Well, you see, here's the thing. There's the story also found all the way in the Philippines that says the same thing about how someone will get lost by the water and the mermaids will come and get this person and teach them the knowledge, and the person will disappear and then they'll come back with a whole lot of knowledge. Now, how could both civilizations that have nothing to do with each other know something like this or have this story that's in common? What are they tapping into in order for them to both come up with the same story and the same teachings? There's even a story about Obatala. Obatala, there's the spirit in the Philippines called Batala. And guess what? It says that he began creating the world from a coconut. Can't make this stuff up.
That's deep because now you going from Obatala, and then you already and for those who might be new to the channel or who have not seen any of the previous interviews we did, but in the very first one you broke down the connections between Obatala and then Pata and then
Mhm.
Opatala, and then also, you know what I'm saying, like what you just spoke about with that connecting in the rows. To me, if I'm not mistaken, does that not tie into something that might or should have something to do with Eshu?
Well, Eshu is said to have broken him up. There's a story that talks about Eshu about the light bringing the light and Eshu breaking the light into pieces. But there's also another story about Atunde rolling down a stone and smashing Orishan lot into pieces. So again, you're finding these pieces of the one that represented the light scattered, and it's our job to bring these pieces back together. Eshu is good at breaking things apart, but giving you the tour and a mission to find them because now you have a purpose. You're on a quest. So therefore you have a question. So the question is the journey. That's why it's shaped like a staff, like a shepherd's staff. You see what I mean? You have a question. So therefore you go on a quest and a journey. And when you look at the concept of philosophy or philosophical ways of life, you're asking questions because the questions take you on a journey. That's why it says that no matter how much I know, I realize that I know nothing. Because the more you know, the more questions that you have because your consciousness is expanding in a universe of limitless expansion. You're not supposed to reach the bottom of the well. You're here to go on a journey. You're here to give Olodumare, that is God within you, an experience and a unique experience.
That's deep. That's yeah, that's deep. And that's dope. Oh man. So when you like when this is you and I think we spoke about it probably the most, but I've heard other people talk about too, like or in the conversation we talk about like the Asarian drama and like the putting the pieces back together for excuse me, Asar, right?
Mm-hmm.
When 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 you share that story, I can't help but like I said, my mind be traveling a trillion miles per hour. I don't know, but I can't help but like mind travel, like astral project within my mind. But all I'm thinking about is the metaphorical story of how you break down what happened to Asar and how Aset had to like get all the pieces and put them back together, and then that, we know the story that was a grand resurrection story. But I'm not quite sure. I take it back. I am quite sure. I feel like the ancestors are talking to me now because everything that you're sharing, I feel like it sounds as if like the plight of people of melanated descent that may have had some of their families ripped apart and
Mm-hmm.
pieces being put on boats that went across to other continents from one continent to the other,
Mm-hmm.
and they were disassembled and they were dismembered and placed scattered all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I feel like now is like something like I feel like 2025, August 30th, 11:17 p.m., 2025. I feel like we're going through a similar like reconnecting of bringing all the pieces, metaphorically speaking. When I say pieces, now I'm talking about tribes and like, you know what I'm saying, groups and villages of people who have been disassembled, dismembered, and scattered across the globe that are all reconnecting and reconvening and being put back together from what I would consider to be like a cosmic astrological aspect of the cosmic mother who has now made her presence known and shown and present on the planet. Also, the mother, as in Mother Earth, bringing all her pieces of all her children, all her tribes back together for a grand, unified resurrection of a collective Asarian resurrection. Is that
I say,
what?
I
Okay,
say,
I'm
yeah.
gonna get out of the way. Go ahead, Bob. I'm
Ah,
sorry.
yeah. Yeah, I know. Maybe he's gonna keep on being scattered until the mother is recognized.
They recognize already. We done had a few of them on here telling us that yes, no, we here and yeah, they on the throne. So I feel like that, but metaphorically speaking, though, I feel like that's where we are though. Like I
Yes.
really do feel like that in a sense. What do you get out of that? Or what do you have for that?
Well, definitely. Remember during the Berlin conference that there was Alsar was broken up into 14 pieces.
Yes. Yeah.
So remember during the Berlin conference of the
Yep.
1800s,
The
there were
continent of
14
Africa.
European nations that got
Yep.
together and divided Africa up. You
Yep.
see?
Yep.
So it happened on multiple levels. It happened historically, it happened philosophically, and it's also part of the alchemy of what happens when something is going through a transformative process, when it is broken to pieces and is scattered or is purified. Every part is purified before it's brought back together into wholeness. And that's the stories of alchemy. Whether you're talking about the metaphors of the tribe of Israel, which basically represent the 12 zodiacal astronomical sciences or astronomical tribes, which also connects with the 12 cranial nerves and also connects with the people coming together and remembering, you see, because everybody is looking to literalize it. And you know, it's like, no, it's not that you're going to say, I'm superior to you because I claim something. It's because you remember something. It's not about a superior thing because you claim that you've awakened about who you are and you look down on everybody else. Yoruba teaches that we're going to all go into Arun as a group. So it also says in one of the Odu that after humans have reached the perfect state, that then there's no killing, there's no lying, there's no stealing, then they're in the state of Karda, and then they will be able to transcend heaven and earth, and they'll no longer be stuck between heaven and earth. You see what I mean? They'll reach the perfect state. In other words, you'll no longer be in pieces, you'll be at peace.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh. And I think for me personally, that's like my number one goal in life is like just to be at peace and to be free, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, like free and at peace. But
See?
I like the collective peace though. Like that's because for me that reminds me of like kind of like when we started out in the beginning, when you were saying like how you got to the like how you came out of the meditation and like the concept of the marinating came about. Excuse me, it came about meditation. So for me, I know like when I meditate and I got my mat like and my pillow sitting right there ready to go when we get done. But when I meditate, I equate meditation of my life or my journey is like a cell phone. Like when we take our cell phones and we plug it into the wall and we plug into the outlet, like we have to do that in order to recharge the batteries. I feel like my spiritual body is like, you know what I'm saying, metaphorically, when I'm meditating, it's metaphorically being plugged into the universe and I'm able to receive that, you know what I'm saying, that power or that ashe that's generated through the cosmic energy. So I feel like everything that you just said, you led me down the path of the state of mind that ultimately, throughout all the BS that we've dealt with as a people, whether you were born and raised here on the continent of America, Turtle Island, whatever you want to call it, or you're born and raised on the continent that we know as Africa, you know, at this point, either way it goes, there is at some point where there was a dismemberance and there was a separation, you know what I'm saying, that happened, whether it's, you know, allegory of metaphysical aspects or we're talking about literal aspects, but there was a great separation and dismemberance of one unified power source, correct?
Correct.
So I'm looking at this metaphor as shout out to somebody. I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody recently about the book The Kybalion, which I know you and I have spoke about. That's one of my favorite books. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, that kind of breaks down like the principles of some of the aspects of the Kybalion when you talk about as above, so below, as
Yes.
within, so without.
Yes.
So is
That's the
that
law of
not?
correspondence. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and get it, Baba, because I know we're running short on time. But if you could bring us home, man, I'm here waiting. We here. We waiting.
All right. I wanted to share one more thing too. I was trying to. There was something that I wanted to talk about the Moors, but I also want to talk about the where they show that there is a current, and Brother Nkosi had kind of touched upon it earlier, about they found a current that swept you right off the coast of West Africa and right into the Americas. Now, there's also those who believe that Atlantis was none other than Aztlan, and that was supposed to have been the land of the Aztecs before they had come to Amexa, aka Mexico. But the thing about it is that it's described as a pre-diluvian or maybe antediluvian paradise like land. And what's interesting is once again, now I live in Seattle. The syllables atl and ast, they all in the Nahuatl language means water. Atl means water. So you can see where Atlan, right? And all of that is connected to the waters once again. The fact of the matter is that our ancestors were literally navigating the waters. So we have to learn how to navigate these cosmic waters with our minds. Therefore, again, restoring our memory. the men, my sisters and brothers. So, establishing this awakening period, there's going to be a lot of sisters and brothers who are not only going to remember, but they're going to start bringing new teachings because it's time. It's time because the earth is crying out. The waters are being polluted. There are people building bombs. There's people experimenting on the dolphins, and that's making the Earth Mother angry because of what they're doing to the dolphins. They're killing dolphins in mass numbers. So what's happening is that the Earth is also demanding for the children who remember to step up and teach. So we need those who are not only going to teach philosophically, but those who are get out and do in their healing part in talking and allowing the children that are coming from ancient times who are reincarnating, allow them to also teach. Because what it is that more and more of us are waking up, and there's a way in which they're trying to stop this from happening by keeping us scattered. So now you got a whole bunch of bots that just make up stuff, and some of the information on the AI and everything else. Some of that is just they could just make up stuff and confuse you, and that's what they want to do. Because there was a time when they withheld information from you. Now what they do is they give you an information overload. But the truth of the matter is that you're living in a field of information, which I call the oceanic field. You're surrounded by water molecules. Sound is not traveling just a vacuum. If water stores memory and you're constantly around water and your body is also made of water, then that means that you never forgot. You just have to recall because we never forget. We just lose recall. That's all.
I say. Oh, listen. So, um, whew, yeah, yeah. Try. Listen, I'm trying to keep up with the comments. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I'm grateful for every single one of them. We wrapping up on time, but I want to get to the comments, but it's so many of them. It's not gonna happen, man, tonight, unfortunately. But bye. Before we get out of here, because I know we got to wrap it up soon. With everything that we discussed, and the conversation was so powerful, we didn't even really get to do all the way what we set out to do because I feel like we rode the wave of spirit, which we always do. In closing, can you kind of tap into the significance of the historical aspects or components of the water kingdoms of ancient yesterday, and then how that can kind of tie into, or how and where it ties into where we are as a people who are going from one cycle from, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's 6,000 year cycles cosmically that we go through. So we know that we're going from the Piscean age, actually we're already in that transition and transformation into the Aquarian age. So my last question is, can you kind of tie in the significance of all of the relevant water kingdoms of yesterday and how that ties into us transitioning and transforming from where we are today in present time 2025 and the astrological cosmic connection from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age, which is a water, excuse me, cycle of fluidity.
I say. Well, first of all, remember the Greeks were told by the Egyptians that we have been keeping records for thousands and thousands of years. Some civilizations more than 10,000 years old. You see. Now here's the thing. The Europeans they talk about Mu and Lemuria, right? A lot of us have adopted that, but when you speak to the natives about that area, because they said it existed in where the islands, Pacific Islands are now. Now the natives do not speak of a Lemuria or a Mu, okay? Because Madame Blavatsky, because this is where you get it from. You get a lot of this from Theosophy, where people like Blavatsky and Leadbeater and things of that nature. However, there is evidence that there's civilizations that existed under those waters. Like there's one off the coast of Cuba where they're trying to say, and you can look it up. Look up ruins underwater by Cuba, and you're going to see where there's pyramid structures and everything else. And they're trying to say that those are natural. There's no way that those are natural. There's the pyramids of Yonaguni. There's also even the pyramids that have found There's pyramids that's found in Europe and everything else where the ancestors have written built pyramids that have been covered over by trees and look like mountains. So the bottom line is that as far as the ancient civilizations and kingdoms are concerned, they talk about Atlantis. Okay, well, Atlantis was actually founded by Atlas, who was the son of Poseidon. And Poseidon was basically gave him authority over that land where he had given birth to 10 kings. Now we can look at that 10 kings and we can say, okay, those 10 kings, pardon me, those 10 kings representing 10 provinces. But on more of a metaphorical step is that as above, so below. The 10 kings, just like the 16 Odu represented by 16 kings and so on. The 10 kings also represent 10 spheres and 10 states of mind. So if you look into the book of Enoch, Enoch was taken to 10 different heavens, right? Not just 7, but 10. When you go all the way back into Kemet, you're going to discover something because their days was also, measured by things taking place in the heavens. And a lot of times they would call these days periods and so on. Well, just like there was the 10 kings of Atlantis, there was the 10 heavenly spheres of Enoch. Well, when you go back into the old kingdom and the calendar of ancient Kemet, they had 10-day calendars with weeks of, excuse me, they had 10-day weeks, pardon me. So what you're looking at going back into Kemet is you're looking at the understanding of these 10 days making up a week that goes back into the old kingdom. You see with these monthly periods when they divided up the heavens into 36 deacons, and a deacon is a measurement of 10. You see, and that's how they made sure that they were able to keep track of things because they didn't just have one calendar. They had your solar calendar, there's your lunar calendar, and there's your stellar calendar. So they had a triple calendar, right? And they said that the Mayans had a total of like 36 calendars. That's how much they kept time. So a lot of it was all about keeping time, dealing with the time before the great deluge, because you have what is called antediluvian civilization. So if there was a Lemuria, right, and if there was an Atlantis, then what it is that that was wiped away by what I call the baptism of the earth, when everything was washed away by fire, by water. The next thing, everything will be pure and purified by fire, because it is through fire in which nature is reviewed whole.
I share, man. That's deep. I know I said one more. I know we already supposed to be all bye, so look, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings, or I ain't gonna feel no type of way. We got to shut it down with a hard stop now. But I had one last question, and I promise if you got it, but only because I felt like it really was a really good question. But it's up to you. You know, if you got the time and the wiggle room. If not, we could definitely. I told the tribe member I would screenshot it and share it on the next one because we had to, shut it down at a certain time tonight. So how you looking on time, bro? Do you got one more, or do you want to shut it down? We
I
bring
could
it to
do,
the next.
I could do one more. I could do another one.
Okay, I appreciate you. So this is the last one, and then like going forward, I'll screenshot them and bring them to the next conversation. But let me find the question real quick. It was a real good question. It was at Mary Bantos Montes. It was. Let me find it. Mary Buntus. My apologies, tribe. It's a lot of comments in here. I'm trying to find the one, but it stood out to me. Very powerful question. It stood out to me, and I wanted to bring it forward, but we might have to bring it the next time because I can't find it just yet. Huh. Yeah,
Well,
I'm looking for it. Yeah, I can't find it, man. I don't want to hold it up, but
well,
yeah, we'll get into it. At Mary, I think it's Mary Bontas. I got your question screenshotted, so I'll look to bring it to the next live stream with Baba Patah because I can't find it. But real quick, so in closing, Baba, what you got for the tribe? Because I really want to like bring that one to the floor, but I can't find it, so I don't want to slow it down. In
all right.
closing,
All right. Well, before we close, I just want to talk about something. We want to make a comparison between the ancient ages, the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and Copper Age. You find that in not only the Hindus is the most popular, but there's also that in the Kemetic version, they talk about the five suns in the ancient American versions, and they also talk about this among the Igbo people, who also deal with the four ages. And what the evils say is that in the beginning, there was conscious beings who existed kind of like energy. We were energy beings. They didn't have physical bodies, but they had come beyond, from beyond the primordial waters. They had come from beyond, and they basically lived here as energy beings, and there was no death. Okay, they agree with the Hindus when they talk about that time of that time period. And then you had the next stage, which was the second stage with the physical form taking place. There was harmony with nature. And then you have the third place where they're talking about enlightenment eventually coming into duality. Then there was manipulation of energy. And this is where we started to have shorter lifespans. And then finally, you have, which is the fourth stage. This is the age of wickedness and ignorance and forgetfulness. So in the beginning, we had a very highly advanced civilization. We did not need to use our mouths to communicate. We could communicate telepathically according to these teachings. And we still do it today. It's just that we have forgotten exactly how to do it because we're so busy using our lips and listening to our phones and being tapped into technology. But we're not listening like we used to. And a lot of times when you're really quiet, you can pick up on people's vibes because you see the heart waves go further than the brain waves. You can literally pick up the heart waves of individuals when they have started an argument in the room and so on. You can sense that, you can pick it up. And then the brain waves, that's more or less dealing with your thought forms here. But the Okan, right? They say in the Kemet, there's two aspects of the heart. The same thing with the Yoruba. There's Egbe and there's Okan. And Egbe, well, Egbe is talking about the community. So you have a community, a common unity, and Okan, which is the physical heart, right? So when we're tapping into the power of the heart, this is when you can communicate without speaking. The problem is that they've done everything they can to close up our hearts. So you got a lot of people with open minds, but they have closed hearts. So ancient civilization dealt with the idea of keeping the heart balanced with the feather of Ma'at. Once the feather, the Ma'at, is balanced with the heart, then we be able to awaken, and then we be able to speak in complete unison. We'll be able to know without talking. We'll be able to feel. We'll be able to hear, and we'll just be in the knowing. We'll be able to tap into the collective Ori, the ocean that is called Ori, as energy obey.
I say, oh, shout out to Kyra Shell. The ancestors are working. Yes, they are. And they've been working too. Like they've been
Oh
working for a
yes,
minute. Yes, sir. They've been working heavy, overtime, double time, triple time, holiday weekend, allegedly.
for sure, for sure.
They've
You
been
know,
doing it. Yeah, labor work is real. Hey.
and they
But
they ain't planning on stopping anytime soon.
no, because they definitely been
You know what I'm saying?
look, they
So
definitely been calling me to the mat, and boy, I'm doing everything I can to listen to. I don't want none of it.
basically, yeah, and so another thing, I'm going to be now. Right now, I'm going over the Ethiopian Book of the Dead. You know, I like to get more of that. I'm gonna have a series in dealing with those teachings um on the channel of Ancient Wisdom Keeper. So for those who want to look for my channel, it's Ancient Wisdom Keeper, but it's spelled with a Z. It's Wizdon.
I sure. And I'm glad you said that because there was another comment in the tribe. Like I said, they're going ham. So I appreciate y'all tribe. Listen, I'm it's hard to keep up with everything because it's a lot, but I want a lot, and I want that challenge of keeping up with everybody's comments because that means we got engagement and we got the tribe showing up and showing love and reciprocity. But united we stand, divided we fall. I did find that question, Baba. I promise is the last one if you can. Only because like it was a good question, a great question. I wanted to hear your perspective on. Do you got the very last one, the very, 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 very last one more?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was it, right? Shout out to Mary Bontis. I hope I'm saying it right. The god Nephilim. That is a little different from what I know it as. But I think you know who he's talking about or she's talking about?
Neferatu.
Yeah.
Nefertum.
Yeah.
Pata sekamit Nefertum.
That's
Pata sekamit Nefertum. Pata sekamit Nefertum. Pata da da. Nefertum represents the one who arisen from the primordial lotus, who is the child of Ptah and Sekhmet, bringing forth harmony and beauty, and also represents um, the power to make perfumes. This getting into, I'm thinking of, I can't remember the word right now for some reason. Anyway, in ancient Kemet, when you wanted to get people's attention, to get them to come to the temple, you'll burn incense and also perfumes. And perfumes were considered sacred because perfumes was identified with helping to raise vibration. So Nefertum was identified with that which is sweetness, but Nefertum or Nefer Atum represent the one who comes with beauty and harmony. Atum representing the eternal fire, and Nefer representing beauty and harmony. So again, that's the son of Ptah and Sekhmet. Ptah bringing forth the forgery of the ancient metals, where he lays out the heaven with an iron slab, and Sekhmet representing a life force energy that permeates the universe. So you need the fire of the Sekhmet in order to forge the steel and bring forth the harmony, or to forge the iron to bring forth the harmony of existence. Nefertum represents the harmony of existence. Also, each and every one of us is Atum in the physical form, because the Kemetic name for humanity is Atememu, Adam.
And that's deep. And I'm not going to ask no more, I promise. But that's deep, and I'm going to leave it with this. So it's a cliffhanger for the next time, because when you talk about Adam, a lot of us that were born and raised in, the Christian pantheon, or the Jehovah's Witness, or the, a lot of different spiritual aspects that, or I should say constructs, that come from the Western part of the globe, we know of the Adam, Adam, Adam and Eve, you know what I'm saying? Like so-called Christian. But when you look at it from a metaphysical aspect, or a cosmic level, or scientific level, you look at the atom, which to me, I got more respect and admiration for that atom. But we talk about the atom, the Atom. So there's a very different, very, very different, path in regards to the creation story of the atom versus the Adam,
Ah.
right? So,
Mhm.
but that's a whole nother show. So because, like I said, I know I asked like a couple of different
Ah.
last questions, so I ain't gonna do it no more. But like I said, that's something we could pick up on the next one. So with that, yeah, this was dope. Like, and I knew it would be, and yeah, we got to do it again. Bye bye. I'm looking forward to it, man. And because I love these conversations, because this is like one that I had with a few I had with Baba brain fart Baba I just had the live stream, real brain fart. I don't know, it must be that retrograde, because there's a whole lot going on with like the technology is not technology in, but Professor Khepra, we was talking about the last, I think it was the last call I had with him, but we was talking about like some of the same variables in terms of like metaphysics, and how things have multiple different meanings and multiple different aspects to them. Shout out to Maximum Risings, I appreciate you. Yep, at time, yes sir. But with that, bye. I appreciate you. I wish we could do it longer, but I know we had to cut it short a little bit tonight. But with that, anything you want to share with the tribe, real quick too? Your YouTube channel, any socials they can find you on, and like any ways they can connect with you, and support you in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Can you leave that with the tribe before we get out of here, Bubba?
Yes, I can be reached. You can look for me on YouTube as Ancient Wisdom Keeper, but it's spelled Wizdom when it comes to wisdom. Or you can also find KPTAH 360. That's also how you'll find me on YouTube. Now, so make sure you put Ancient Wisdom Keeper. That's Wizdom, because there's other Ancient Wisdom Keepers on there. And also, I can be found. I got an account. I've been doing some stuff on TikTok lately. There's a website that's under construction that you'll find on my YouTube channel as well. And another thing, you can also find me on Facebook. I might have to just start another Facebook page, because that one's pretty full. For those who would like, also consultations, I can be reached there as well. So Khepra Ptah, or Kptah at gmail.com. So Khepra, Khepra .Ptah ashe@gmail.com if you have any questions or inquiries.
Ashe. Oh, no, I appreciate you, Baba. But yeah, with that, man. So listen, we got to do it again. I'll get with you, see how your schedule looks, and when we can line it up. But this was a dope one because we didn't even get all the way into like what the original topic was supposed to be. But that's what I love about this show and the guests and those who the tribe and everybody else. It's all organic. It's real. We're led by spirit. And there was a comment that was left the other day, and I appreciate it. But the comment was something to the lines of the effects of like, you should shorten your questions because they're too long. And I respectfully, responded like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen because everything that happens here is led by spirit. So I feel like the ancestors guide. I don't feel like I know the ancestors guide me, and I'm gonna go along the path that they're leading me to. So with that,
Ashe.
hopefully, you know what I'm saying, you can jump on the train and ride with us. And if you don't like it and don't agree with it, that's cool too. Then, stay at the station. But we're going to keep on doing what we're doing with this manifestation and this activation, crystallization and these Ashe streets. So with that, I give a great thanks and homage to the ancestors, the elders, and all those who are showing love and support, showing up and showing out. We appreciate each and every single one of y'all. Baba Khepra Patai, I appreciate you, Baba. I look forward to doing it again and make it do what it do so we can do what we came here to do and to elevate the minds, the consciousness, the spirits, the mind's eye, the third eye, the first eye, whatever you want to call it, for all those who, operate on the same frequency. This is what this is what we're here for. This is what we do it for. And not stand divided, we fall. So with that, it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. Bye-bye. You got anything else before we get out of here?
I'm going to close with a Kemetic chant real quick.
Let's get it.
Imbu winter. Lupu neturu heteru. Amenhotep sigmet pata Khepra amen ray. Suta nature. Onkucha seneb. Inbu winter. Onginter inturu ongasaram and ra. Anecharak. Atef mter. Anecharak. Ra nebeteshara. Anecharak. Imbu atum. Imbu pata. Imbu aset. We give thanks and praise the divine forces of the nature, those who come from long ago. We give thanks and praise to the Neteru. We give thanks and praise to Heteru. We give thanks and praise to Amen. We give thanks and praise to the power of peace, Hotep. We ask that each and every one of us, may we travel with life, strength, and health. Uncle Chasanab. Peace and blessings, family. Hotep. Odabo.
That's it. Mic drop. Nothing else left for me to say. With that, I appreciate you, man. I definitely do. I'll definitely be in touch, Baba, so we can see how our schedules can line for us to do this again and make it do what it do. But with that, tribe, like I said, I give thanks to everybody who's been supporting us from day one all the way until today. Shout out to every single guest who's been on, every single presenter, every single speaker, every single listener, subscriber. Even the ones who ain't subscribed, that's watching from the shadows. I appreciate y'all too, because I know y'all there too. I appreciate y'all. But yeah, I see the stats. It don't cost nothing to hit the button, but it's okay. Hey, but real talk.
For real.
Yeah, just hitting the button. That's it. But with that, man, there's a lot that do. So we appreciate you all, family, for real. Oh, one last thing too, and I promise. But somebody asked for your Cash App earlier. I know I got it in the comments in our other videos, but can you share that with me real quick so I can put that in the comments for those who want to make a donation as well, Baba?
Sure. It's $$ Khepra, Khepra, capital PTAH. So it's capital Khepra, capital PTAH.
Ashe. So I put it in the comments, and it's on the screen now. So for those who, I can't remember who it was, but shout out to whoever it was that said, hey, drop the Cash Apps because they wanted to show love. I'll put mine in the description because I don't want to hold Baba up, and I know we got to shut it down. But I'll put mine in the description. It'll be in the show descriptions as well, family. So I appreciate all the love, support, like, share, subscribes, all that. The Patreon community tribe, I appreciate all y'all. Baba, I appreciate you, man. I look forward to doing it again, man. And I definitely give my shout out to you and your family, and peace, blessings, E-Ray, to all that you do over there in Seattle on the West Coast, and your internal family, man, and for what you do for the tribe, bro. I appreciate you. So with that, I look forward to making it do what it do again in the near future, Baba.
Ashe. Ashe, Egungun Mobile. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe. Oh, double. All right, tribe. So don't forget to please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see y'all in the next episode. We out. Feel me? Oh, double. Peace.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and praise your